And now we have from Stratford, Ontario, David Stones, who has also been a very loyal and committed part of Mykonos Open Mic Poetry. Welcome, David, please.
Thank you, Joan and others. I'm going to perform two poems for you tonight. The first is a poem called Search, which is written by iconic Canadian poet Raymond Souster. And the second is a poem written, of course, by myself called On Turning Into Raymond Souster. Raymond Souster, for those of you who don't know, was a great Canadian poet and a great leader of the Canadian literary scene, particularly during the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. He wrote more than 50 volumes of poetry. In 1952, along with his confreres Irving Layton and Louis Dudek, he founded Contact Press. And Contact Press very proudly premiered the works of a number of superb Canadian poets, including Leonard Cohen, Gwendolyn McEwen, P.K. Page, Bowering, Milton Elkhorn, and others. I loved Raymond Souster. I came from England in 1955. When I was 7, I discovered the poem Search. And my mom tells me I carried it with me for a year. It's a very simple poem. It's very short. And in August of 2016, for some bizarre reason, I needed to write a poem in response to Raymond Souster's poem, Search. So I start with Search, and then I will perform on Turning Into Raymond Souster, which I wrote just recently. Search. Not another bite, not another cigarette, nor a final coffee from the shining coffee urn. Before you leave the warmth steaming at the windows of the hamburger joint, where the Wurlitzer booms all night without a stop, where the onions are thick between the buns. Oh, wrap yourself well in that cheap coat that holds back the wind like a sieve, for you have a long way to go, and the streets are dark. You may have to walk all night before you find another heart as lonely, so nearly mad with boredom, so filled with such strength, such tenderness of love. That was written in 1952 by Raymond Souster, discovered by David Stones in 1957. This is my response on Turning Into Raymond Souster. The weather socked me into the diner on Dundas West, snow horizontal like 1,000 clotheslines, binding tight in white despair the stranded streetcars, none of which tonight I'd call desire or even casual affection. But the coffee here is good. It's rich and black and melts with the grim vigor into the salty smoke that bacon makes, into the surly engines of the Toronto natives held captive by the storm, into the gentle patois of their assorted tongues, chiming every minute 1,000 stories filled with the glory and the sweet remembrance of the lands they've left behind. Like the nails of my waitress, assertive, red, and hard upon the countertop, the snow against the window clicks. Upon the glass, I watch the Rorschach form in steamy trails, statements cobwebbed into those silent puddle poems that life will sometimes make when we're just not looking or waiting for the moon to ignite our lover's face. Oh, and if there was with me a woman now, oh, I'd kiss her fiercely, and then maybe ask her name, in hope I might instill a little fire into the belly of this frozen beast playing out this night where the snow bleeds Dundas out into the distant diamonds of the whistling heavens. All wilting bones and bleached with sorrow, the streetcars amid the sleet sag. Like abandoned cabins on those dark, torn lakes, the snow divides with silence. Oh, and I think I may be turning into Raymond Souster now. This coffee urn, this life within, this night without, the bruises of these little hearts steaming at the windows where the snow in bright, hard nails clicks.
Whoa.
Thank you.
So, wow, okay. So how old were you when you discovered that poem, Search?
I was 8, actually. I carried it with me for a year. An interesting thing about...
He's crazy.
On turning into Raymond Souster, I was in a diner on Dundas West, but it was August and it was 38 fucking degrees. So that I still conjured a snowstorm because it worked.
Wow. Woo! Oh, sorry. But I want to say one thing that's very important to me in these evenings, that I am as interested in the final product as I am in the process of why that bloody thing keeps falling down. No, and so David, honestly, like years ago as a little boy, and then you just decided to write about it.
It was very funny.
Let's hear it.
Well, I was just sitting in a bar in August, Dundas, and I said, I love that poem. I carried it with me for a year, and I went on my iPhone and I found it, and I read it, and it just so resonated with me that I started writing a response to it. And I actually felt I was turning into Raymond Souster, who was an amazing guy.
Where was he from?
Toronto.
Toronto?
He was the sort of quintessential Toronto poet.
Wow.
He was the unofficial poet laureate of the city.
Wow.
He worked for a bank for 52 years, and he operated the vault in the basement. And he was known for his exceptionally white skin because he seldom saw daylight.
And he wrote that poem.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's like a great story. And the stories in the process are as fascinating, as I said, to me, as the final product.